What is the counter-argument against helping people? Will costs to skyrocket? Raise minimum wage? Costs will skyrocket. UBI? Costs will skyrocket. Socialized healthcare? Costs will skyrocket. Criminalizing stock buybacks and taxing outsourcing? Costs will skyrocket. Is there anything billionaire bootlickers would agree doesn't raise the cost of living that would help the middle class? The minimum wage hasn't changed much in 30 years, and the price of everything still went up. A minimum wage that is tied to the local cost of living and self-adjusts every 6 months or so, without the need for a bureaucratic sign-off. If companies want to keep labor costs down, they'd need to keep prices down. If the US government can't afford something like UBI or universal healthcare, then maybe they should spend less money bombing brown people on the other side of the planet. They already have. You fucking doorknob, why the fuck else would we need better wages? It has been proven that socializing healthcare will save Americans $500 billion a year. People are afraid of paying tax to cover healthcare. Health insurance is the same thing. It is a tax. Only you pay it to a CEO so he can buy a yacht. Socialized healthcare cuts your taxes because none of it goes to the next mansion or yacht of a CEO. Instead, all of it goes to your healthcare costs. Plenty of countries do this. Their citizens tend to be happy, instead of squeezed and desperate like many in the US. Maybe capitalism is the problem? We have the resources to help everyone. We just choose to allow people to hoard those resources. Appropriate taxation on companies? For example, the exploitation of our natural resources by mining companies in Australia is an issue. Grumbles under breath. Costs are already skyrocketing. The rich cook medium skin tone. Costs skyrocketed anyway, so pay me more. We have decades of data to show that it's not that likely to happen. Whenever we've had to raise wages before, business get a knee-jerk reaction and skyrocket prices to punish or whatever. After a month, the market steps in, and the prices fall back down. Maybe slightly higher but negligible in the amount. Just say WWJD. What would Jesus do? He took the leaves and fish to feed the 5,000. But the folks who follow the Jesus loves me, that's why I'm rich, and he never personally told me to share my good fortune with them. Seems to be the brand of Christianity a lot of folks are following. P.S. I know a lot of churches are active in their community supporting all sorts of things. But I always felt that if a preacher is wearing a designer not off-the-rack suit dress, then there's something wrong with that picture. Don't even get me started with the private planes. Costs might skyrocket for certain goods and services if the price of labor goes up. But that's not an argument. You wouldn't say we should make people work for free because it will reduce prices. Is there anything billionaire bootlickers would agree doesn't raise the cost of living that would help the middle class? Pizza parties are the only bootlicker acceptable way to help the middle class. The federal government should throw us all a pizza party. Bonus points for crappy cupcakes. The economy is infinitely more complex than these people realize, and nothing happens in a vacuum. But the easiest answer is that costs are already skyrocketing. The thing they are worried about is already happening. The vast majority of people with this argument just want to desperately cling to the leg up they've been given in life and pull the ladder up after. How's that any different than what we're doing right now? If you own a business and can't pay at least a living wage, regardless of the minimum wage, then your business is not viable. What happens is any business paying a living wage has taxpayers chipping in to make up the difference in social programs. Your business is being directly subsidized by taxpayers. To be more eloquent, You're a fucking leech. Yeah, that's right. The leeches are not the people using social programs, it's the employers paying less than a living wage and causing people to have to use them. So, yeah, we can't afford a less than living wage, it's a drain on taxpayers. No, they designed the system to take all the money. They don't intend to give it back. Unless they're lying to themselves. Confiscating the wealth of billionaires should have the desired effect, even if they fundamentally disagree. Then how does this end? Things get more expensive and what? Do we just expect people to die of poverty? They use this argument every time and it has never been true. 5-day week, minimum wage, stopping kids working, paid annual leave, paid parental leave, paid sick leave and a whole raft of others. You name it. When it was introduced it was going to be catastrophic, but it wasn't. Redistribution of wealth has already been happening the last 40 years. It's just been going from the bottom to the top. My response: please show me the cost savings we've supposedly enjoyed by an exploitive minimum wage, overpriced healthcare, and stock buybacks which primarily have only benefited the executives and major stockholders, of which 99.99999 of use are not. America is the richest country in the world. By a lot. We just need to spend less on the unaccountable military and corporate handouts. And start investing in the American people. United States. There isn't one. Capitalism is based on exploiting those beneath you and capturing that profit. Paying workers more simply goes against capitalism. Sickening, really. Prove it. The only reason all the costs rise is greed. The high-ups want more than their share and don't care who hurts for it. The only thing that matters is profits. Costs are already skyrocketing. Man shrugging light skin tone. The current issues in our society are not inflation-based, but corporate greed. Helping people in need is enormously expensive and breeds dependency. Giving tax breaks to the wealthy pays for itself and rewards discipline. Guess I'm a bootlocker for believing companies will raise prices to keep the same if not greater profits from having to pay their employees more. How dare I believe greed exists? Don't do any of those things and costs skyrocket anyway. We don't need them to agree. Just let them be wrong. Lol, the only thing skyrocketing now is living expenses and corporate profits. Like all this shit is going up, we might as well get policies that actually help people while we're at it. Shush. If we have this discussion, costs, you know. Guess what? Costs have been skyrocketing, and it's not for any of those reasons. Profit margin is the only thing that causes prices to skyrocket. If it didn't, cost increases would result in profit margins plummeting. But they don't. As costs increase, profits increase. Inflation cost increase results in higher profits. It's actually cheaper to have socialized healthcare in the long run. Costs for who? The cost of cheap labor to work at shitty restaurants maybe. Nothing I buy would increase in price. Only stuff wealthy people like. I don't know that there is a good counter. Not because there's not a logical argument against it, but because the people who make the argument it'll be worse for me if we help them. So it's fine if they starve, freeze, die, have no interest in logic. Life doesn't have to be a shit show. But here we are, cold sweat smile. Explain to them that when you take inflation into account, wages have actually steeply declined since the 1970s. The average American today has less purchasing power than they would have back in the 1970s for the same amount of work. L.7 pppu square ywhyp0p 980p. It's kind of hard to argue with the truth.